During a White House cabinet meeting, a reporter asked Attorney General Pam Bondi about what has unofficially been referred to as the missing minute in the released 11-hour video of footage outside Jeffrey Epstein's cell. The timestamp on the footage skips 1 minute from 11:59 p.m. directly to 12 a.m.
The minute missing from the video, we released the video showing definitively the video was not conclusive. But
it's August 2019, and Officer Michael Thomas is starting his morning rounds at New York's Metropolitan Correctional Center. With a breakfast tray in hand, he walks towards cell 220, completely unaware of what's waiting for him. The moment he looks inside, he freezes. Jeffrey Epstein, the prison's most notorious inmate, is hanging lifeless from a makeshift rope tied to his bunk. Instant panic erupts through the jail. A female officer scrambles to call 911, but it's already too late. Epstein's body is cold, and there's no pulse. What unfolds next becomes one of the strangest, most twisted stories in U.S. prison history. Officers start tampering with evidence, the crime scene gets contaminated, and somehow, key moments from the security footage go missing. Even more shocking, one section of the video shows a figure dressed in orange walking straight into Epstein's cell, right in the middle of the night. Now, here's what really went down inside Epstein's death cell. Just 13 hours before his body was found, cameras captured Epstein being escorted back to his cell by a guard. The staff was prepping for curfew, and on their desks sat a note with one critical reminder: make mandatory rounds every 30 minutes to check on Epstein. He was still under watch after a recent suicide attempt, so these checks were not optional. But instead of doing their jobs, officers were seen scrolling online, heading to the bathroom, and even dozing off at their desks. Not once did the guards inspect Jeffrey Epstein's cell until 10:38 p.m., when Officer Toba Noel was caught on camera standing up and leaving the office completely empty. For that short stretch of time, no one was watching the floor. Then suddenly, a minute later, surveillance footage shows an orange figure climbing the stairs that lead directly to Epstein's cell. The camera doesn't show a face, but it's obvious, and whoever it was, they were wearing the same orange jumpsuit as the inmates. Remember, by that hour, every prisoner was supposed to be locked in their cells. No exceptions. At 11:57 p.m., another person approaches the front desk. It's Officer Michael Thomas, clocking in for his night shift. But right at that exact moment, the surveillance feed cuts out. And when it comes back, it's already midnight. What happened in those missing minutes? But to figure out what really happened in that missing minute, and who that mysterious person in orange was sneaking up to Epstein's cell, we need to rewind the clock. Let's go back to the morning his body was found, because that's where the truth starts slipping through the cracks. It's 9:30 a.m., about 3 hours after Jeffrey Epstein was confirmed dead. The forensic photography team arrives first, ready to document everything. But the job they do? Absolutely terrible. They forget to mark key evidence, bits of cloth scattered across the floor. And unbelievably, they don't even capture Epstein's actual cell in the photo. How could professionals miss something that obvious? In that same photo, you can see a working security camera pointing straight toward Epstein's door, the one that should have recorded everyone who went in and out. But here's where it gets strange. The hard drive that stored all the footage, it had crashed a week earlier, right around the exact time Epstein died. Total coincidence? Doesn't seem like it. The team also snaps a photo of the cell door, showing an electrical outlet near the floor that Epstein supposedly used to power his sleep apnea machine. Pinned on the door is a sheet of paper with Epstein's mugshot, and above it, an ID tag belonging to Reyes Zelda, Epstein's assigned cellmate. His job was to keep an eye on Epstein and make sure he didn't harm himself. But here's the kicker. The agents never officially checked in Zelda's new roommate just hours before Epstein's death. That left Epstein completely alone, in the perfect setup for something dark to unfold. When investigators step inside the cell, things get even sketchier. The floor is covered with 6 bed sheets, even though inmates are only allowed 1. On the table sits a pen, and under the bunk is a big suitcase. None of this should have been there in a high-security cell. Then officers examine the bunk bed, where a strip of cloth is tied tightly to the corner. 2 mattresses are stacked on the floor, adding to the confusion. Officials claim Epstein was found hanging just an inch off the ground, but these photos prove that would have been physically impossible. What really went down in that room? Jeffrey Epstein was about 6 feet tall, not the giant the rumors made him out to be. And if he'd been sitting on those two stacked mattresses, he couldn't have been hanging the way the official report claims. Something doesn't add up. On the table, investigators find a handwritten note from Epstein himself, and the words are chilling. Davis locked me in the shower for an hour. Noel sent me burnt food. I have giant bugs crawling on my hands. None of this is funny. No one knows exactly who Davis was, but Noel clearly refers to Officer Tova Noel, the same one who was supposed to be watching him that night. On the back of the note, there's another strange clue. The name Reyes, written next to a phone number belonging to someone called Juan Felix. Investigators dig into it and discover Juan Felix is actually a relative of Ryan Reyes. The inmate Epstein reportedly paid for protection so he wouldn't get jumped by others. The whole cell is crawling with inconsistencies, but what comes next is straight up unbelievable. The forensic team starts moving things around, literally rearranging the entire crime scene. One of the mattresses that was lying on the floor now appears stacked neatly on the bunk. A pair of socks that were far from the door in the first photo suddenly show up right by the entrance in the next one. Even worse, one of the tied fabric knots supposedly found in Epstein's cell is mysteriously taken to another floor just to be photographed. From that moment on, the scene is completely contaminated, and the clock shows all these changes happening around 9:34 a.m., a full 6 hours before the FBI even showed up. That means the Bureau's entire investigation was based on a setup that had already been tampered with. When federal agents finally arrive and start asking questions, things get even stranger. They talk to inmates in the nearby cell, and the prisoners admit they saw the guards themselves performing CPR on Epstein when they found him hanging. Why would the guards jump in like that before investigators even got there? But those inmate statements turn out to be totally false. The very first forensic photo taken at 9:34 a.m. shows their cell window completely covered with construction paper, meaning there's no way they could have seen what went down inside Epstein's cell. The idea that they watched the guards perform CPR? Impossible. Before getting into the government's wild explanations for all these contradictions, we have to go back to a chilling moment that happened just weeks earlier. Epstein's terrifying run-in with bodybuilder Nicholas Tartaglione inside the prison. 18 days before Epstein's death, officers found him unconscious in his cell with bruises and marks around his neck. Tartaglione, his cellmate at the time, claimed Epstein had tried to take his own life while Tartaglione was asleep. But Epstein told his lawyer something completely different. He said that Tartaglione suddenly started choking me out of nowhere, in the middle of the night until I blacked out. That's a whole other story. And here's the kicker. The security cameras were recording that night. But when the Justice Department later asked for the footage, prison staff somehow accidentally sent the wrong files and then deleted the right ones. Just like that, the only video showing what actually happened in Epstein's cell was gone forever. Once again, vital evidence vanished under mysterious circumstances. Meanwhile, Tartaglione, a former cop facing charges for kidnapping and murdering 4 men, completely denied attacking Epstein. The case was eventually labeled an attempted suicide, even though nothing about it added up.
The minute missing from the video, we released the video showing definitively the video was not conclusive, but the evidence prior to it was showing he committed suicide. And what was on that, there was a minute that was off the counter. And what we learned from Bureau of Prisons was every night, they redo that video. It's old, from like 1999. So every night the video is reset, and every night should have the same minute missing. So we're looking for that video to release that as well, showing that a minute is missing every night. And that's it on Epstein.
Fast forward to July 8, 2025, Attorney General Pam Bondi steps up to the podium at a press conference, ready to finally explain why a full minute of Epstein's security footage is missing. What she says next shocks everyone in the room. Pam Bondi steps up to the mic and calmly claims the missing minute from Epstein's footage is nothing strange at all. She says the prison's camera system is so outdated that it automatically reboots every night at midnight, taking about 60 seconds before it starts recording again. Sounds believable, right? Well, that excuse falls apart fast.
Unedited video as the
Just
government
hours
claimed,
after the press
but it gets
conference,
worse and
tech
worse.
analysts dig into the video's metadata, and what they uncover blows the whole story wide open. The so-called official recording wasn't a continuous feed at all. It was stitched together from two completely different clips, and the file had been edited multiple times using Adobe Premiere software. The government's raw footage wasn't raw at all. But it gets even shadier. Around the 1,134 second mark, you can literally see a computer cursor sliding across the screen, proving the footage was captured with a screen recorder, not the original surveillance system. The evidence clearly shows someone tampered with it. Then, on September 3, 2025, Congress drops a bombshell. They release the same prison footage again, this time with the supposedly missing minute restored. But here's the catch. That missing minute shows absolutely nothing suspicious. Still, something's off. The metadata is completely redacted, and the image quality is way worse than the first version. Why would the government scrub and downgrade their own video unless there was something to hide? And what about that mysterious orange figure seen walking up the stairs toward Epstein's cell? The Department of Justice tried to explain it away in a 2023 report, claiming it might have just been a bunch of orange bed sheets that Officer Tova Noel was handing out to inmates. But that story doesn't match up either. Noel herself admitted that night she was busy collecting food trays and passing out toilet paper, not bed sheets. Plus, in the footage, she's never seen dropping anything off at the nearby cells. Still, Noel made one bizarre mistake that night that can't be ignored. She was supposed to count the inmates every 3 hours and fill out a form listing how many were on the floor after each round. Standard prison procedure. That night, there were exactly 72 inmates. But on the report covering 10 p.m. to midnight, Noel wrote something no one had ever seen before. 73 inmates plus 1. That cryptic note perfectly lines up with the same time the orange figure appears heading straight for Epstein's cell. Who or what was that plus 1? Jeffrey Epstein's own lawyer never believed that his client took his own life that night. Just days before his death, Epstein had actually hired him long-term, even paying several months' rent up front for a luxury New York apartment so the lawyer could continue advising him closely. That doesn't sound like a man ready to give up. It sounded like someone preparing to fight hard in court and clear his name. And Epstein's brother? He's just as unconvinced by the official story. He brought in one of the most respected forensic experts in the world, Dr. Michael Baden, a man who's handled thousands of autopsies. What Baden found inside that morgue shook everything. Epstein's hyoid bone was broken, a bone that rarely fractures in self-hanging cases, but is very common in manual strangulations. Even more alarming, Baden found what looked like an injection mark on Epstein's arm. Sure, it could have come from medical treatment, but neither the FBI nor the government ever confirmed or explained it. After seeing all these contradictions, it's hard not to question what we've been told. And even though I always stick to official, verifiable sources on this channel, the official story of Jeffrey Epstein's death is so tangled, so full of gaps and shady details, that believing it blindly feels almost impossible. Too many clues, too many missing answers. So what do you think really happened that night? Was it truly a suicide, or something far more sinister hidden behind government silence? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and share this video with your friends. Don't forget to check out the other Epstein investigations popping up right here on your screen.